Picture this. You wake up one morning, step outside, and the ground you've known your whole life has changed. A perfect circle where your driveway used to be. A crater swallowing half your backyard. Or a sinkhole so deep you can't see the bottom, rimmed with clean edges like someone punched through the earth with a cosmic cookie cutter. These aren't movie sets or government experiments. They're real places where the ground betrayed its residents overnight, leaving gaping wounds that science is still racing to explain. Tonight, we dive into the bizarre holes that appeared overnight, places where the planet reminded us it's not as solid as we think. Guatemala City sinkhole, when rain turns asphalt to air. Let's start in Guatemala City, where on February 23, 2007, torrential rains pummeled the region for days. The sky opened up, dumping more water than the city's drainage could handle, and beneath the surface, something far worse was brewing. Trash, sewage, industrial waste, all mixing into a toxic slurry that weakened an underground limestone cavern already stressed by decades of urban weight pressing down from above. At 11 a.m., a clothing factory on the edge of the La Limonada neighborhood suddenly dropped out of existence. Not collapsed, not tilted, vanished. The hole that swallowed it measured 100 meters across, about the length of a football field, and plunged 150 meters deep, roughly the height of a 50-story building. Workers inside vanished instantly. Concrete buildings that stood nearby a moment before now dangled over the edge like broken teeth. Emergency crews arrived to find a perfect cylinder of destruction, walls smooth and vertical, exposing layers of geology that had been hidden for millennia. Geologists pored over the site and reached a grim consensus. This wasn't nature's fury alone. Guatemala City had been built atop a karst landscape, porous limestone riddled with natural caves, weakened further by unchecked urban runoff turning into acidic groundwater. The rain was just the final shove. The hole appeared so suddenly because the collapse happened in seconds, the ground giving way all at once rather than cracking gradually. Neighbors recounted the sound, a deep rumble like a freight train underground, followed by silence, then screams. By nightfall, the crater had claimed 5 lives directly, with hundreds evacuated from the teetering buildings ringing its edge. That single event forced the city to rethink its entire foundation, literally, leading to new building codes and drainage projects, though similar smaller sinkholes still plague the area during heavy rains. The Guatemala City sinkhole didn't just swallow a factory, it swallowed the illusion of permanence in a place where the ground had been waiting to answer back. But if Guatemala showed us what rain can do to weak rock under a city, our next hole took that concept to a remote corner of Russia, where nature decided to vent without warning. Yamal Crater, Siberia, the Arctic tundra that burped. Fast forward to July 2014, when reindeer herders from the Nenets people in Russia's Yamal Peninsula spotted something impossible on the tundra they'd known for generations. A massive crater, 30 meters wide at the top, had appeared overnight in the middle of nowhere, about 30 kilometers south of the Bovinenkovo gas field. No seismic activity reported, no mining blasts nearby, just frozen ground that suddenly wasn't ground anymore. The hole plunged 50 to 70 meters deep, with walls of dark permafrost sheared clean, and at the bottom lay a small lake of melted ice glowing turquoise under the Arctic sun. Local authorities scrambled helicopters and geologists to the site, fearing an explosion from gas pipelines or even a meteor strike. But when scientists rappelled down, they found no shrapnel, no burn marks, no extraterrestrial debris. What they did find was methane, massive quantities bubbling up from below. The explanation unfolded over months of study. Beneath the Yamal tundra lies a volatile cocktail of frozen methane hydrates, ice locked around natural gas formed millions of years ago from ancient wetlands. Climate change had been warming the permafrost for decades, destabilizing those hydrates until one reached a tipping point. A pocket of methane gas expanded rapidly, fracturing the frozen cap above it like a champagne cork under pressure. The eruption blasted tons of soil and ice into the air, explaining the debris scattered up to a kilometer away before the hole stabilized with water pooling at the bottom. This wasn't a sinkhole in the traditional sense. It was a geological hiccup, the Earth expelling gas it had held too long. 2 more similar craters appeared nearby in the following years, one on the Taimyr Peninsula in 2013, another in Yamal itself, confirming the pattern. Reindeer herders who'd grazed those lands for centuries called it a warning from the Earth spirits. Scientists called it pingos gone wrong, natural ice dome formations destabilized by warming. Either way, the Yamal crater marked the first visible symptom of something deeper. Arctic permafrost beginning to off-gas at an accelerating rate, with implications for global methane levels that keep climate researchers awake at night. From urban trash heaps in Guatemala to exploding tundra in Siberia, these holes proved the ground beneath our feet can rewrite itself when the conditions align just wrong. But neither of those came close to the sheer spectacle of the next one, a fiery pit that opened up and refused to close. Darvaza gas crater, Turkmenistan. The door that stayed open. Deep in the Karakum Desert of Turkmenistan, Soviet geologists in 1971 were drilling for natural gas when their rig pierced a massive underground cavern. The ground collapsed instantly beneath them, swallowing the entire drilling platform into a yawning pit 70 meters wide and 30 meters deep. Fearing a toxic gas release that could poison nomads and camels across the desert, the engineers made a desperate call: set the crater on fire. They expected the gas to burn off in days, maybe weeks. Instead, it's still burning today, over 50 years later. The Darvaza gas crater, nicknamed the Door to Hell, glows like a wound in the earth, flames roaring from vents as methane continues to seep from fractured rock below. Each night, the fire lights up the empty desert for miles, drawing tourists who camp on the rim and stare into the inferno. Geologists estimate the crater taps into one of the world's largest natural gas reserves, enough to fuel the flames indefinitely if left alone. Turkmenistan announced plans to seal it in 2022, citing environmental concerns. But as of now, the flames persist, a man-made hole turned geological monument. Unlike sinkholes or methane burps, Darvaza didn't appear by accident. It was drilled into existence. But its permanence shows how one decision can turn a temporary fix into an eternal scar. The desert floor forever marked by a hole that eats gas and spits fire. From toxic collapses to Arctic explosions to desert infernos, these overnight holes reveal Earth's surface as far more fragile than our maps suggest. Yet the most terrifying appeared not in a desert or tundra, but in a quiet Florida neighborhood where suburbia met the underworld. Seffner Sinkhole, Florida, the bedroom that disappeared. On March 1, 2013, in Seffner, Florida, a suburb east of Tampa, Jeff Bush went to bed in his one-story ranch home like any Thursday night. His brother Jeremy heard a deep rumble around 11 p.m., then a deafening crash. He ran to Jeff's bedroom and found nothing. The floor was gone. The bed was gone. His brother was gone. A massive sinkhole had opened beneath the house overnight, 20 feet wide and 50 feet deep, swallowing half the bedroom and cracking the foundation of neighboring homes. Jeremy barely escaped as the living room floor buckled, firefighters pulling him out moments before the house began sliding toward the void. Rescue teams lowered cameras and microphones into the muddy abyss, but found no sign of Jeff, only shifting limestone and groundwater churning below. The hole grew overnight from a hairline crack to a monster, fed by Florida's karst geology, where underground caves erode silently until the surface can't hold. Seffner sits atop the Floridan Aquifer, a vast limestone system riddled with voids that collapse unpredictably, especially after heavy rain or drought cycles stress the rock. By morning, the entire house had been condemned and demolished, the sinkhole filled with concrete that experts knew wouldn't last. The ground there collapses again and again. Jeff Bush's story became national news, a stark reminder that in Florida, 25% of the state faces sinkhole risk, with insurance claims topping $1.4 billion since 2006. Neighbors recounted how the house groaned for days before, but no one imagined it would swallow a man whole in his sleep. That bedroom hole didn't just take a life. It took the confidence that solid ground stays solid. These craters didn't conspire to open on the same night, but they share a common thread: hidden instability waiting for a trigger. In Guatemala City, it was rain eroding limestone under urban weight. In Yamal, it was warming permafrost destabilizing methane ice. In Darvaza, it was drilling that hit a cavern too big to contain. In Seffner, it was aquifer erosion finally breaching the surface. Each proves the same point. Earth's crust is paper-thin in places, underlain by caves, gas pockets, and dissolving rock that can give way without mercy. Climate change accelerates the problem. More intense rain for sinkholes, faster permafrost thaw for methane releases. while human activity multiplies the risk through poor drainage, over-drilling, and heavy construction on questionable ground. Scientists monitor these hotspots with ground-penetrating radar, satellite interferometry, and gas sensors, but perfect prediction remains elusive. One hole teaches you to watch the ground. The next teaches you it might not matter. From Guatemala's toxic abyss to Siberia's methane burp, Turkmenistan's eternal flames to Florida's bedroom void. These bizarre holes appeared overnight to remind us the planet beneath our feet is alive and unpredictable. They're not mysteries without answers, but warnings with timestamps. Which hole would you camp beside, and which would keep you up wondering if your own ground is next?